right, we want to continue talking about this, specifically looking at what this disaster means for the energy industry overall, with an analyst and investment banker who has spent almost 4 decades covering energy. Tom Petrie, vice chairman of Bank of America. He's advised on $180 billion of energy-related deals. Tom, great to have you back with Matt and myself. What's the bigger picture story that's going to come out of the BP accident out there in the Gulf? Is it going to mean we're going to see less offshore drilling?
Probably we will for a while, Carol, for sure. There's a range of options or changes in policies that are being talked about. In the very near term, there was drilling planned up in northern Alaska in the shallow waters off of north of Prudhoe Bay. That's been suspended. The plans for a lease sale off of Virginia have been pushed out and maybe canceled. And in the Gulf of Mexico the same way. These are all logical steps to take while they reassess whether the overall regulatory framework is consistent with the lessons to be learned from this situation. There'll be some who feel it's overkill, but I think it's understandable in this context. The problem that's going to come up is if they let this go from being, say, a 6 or 9 month process to multiple years. And that's where my fear is, that this becomes an excuse for doing nothing, in which case we have lots of implications in terms of oil prices and the cost of imported energy and so on that we have to think about.
Tom, when do we really see the implications in terms of oil prices? I mean, we looked at a big jump already today, 4.5% for crude, but you'd think if they suspend offshore drilling to this extent, that the price would go up further, or is it the case that it's just so long from the exploration aspect of offshore drilling to the actual production of oil that there's going to be a lag effect?
It's the latter. The lags are really quite meaningful here. But this is an important set of policy decisions to be made, but the consequences of those decisions are 1 to 3 years out, in my judgment. There's a lot of other things that affect oil prices. Today's recovery is a bit of a dead cat bounce when you think about $88 oil. It became $68 oil in about 2.5 weeks. This is more just a recovery from that, as opposed to any direct consequence of maybe a little more optimistic view about what's happening in Louisiana.
And Tom, I want to just draw everybody's attention once again, because we do have, and we've been following all day, a live shot of the BP well in the Gulf. As you know, the top kill did go underway. It stopped that well from leaking temporarily, is what our story just points out to everybody. Tom, let me ask you, I mean, when you're drilling a mile underneath, the water, you're going to have problems. I'm not trying to justify and make excuses for BP, but, I mean, none of this is an exact science, is it?
No, it's a very, very frontier, pushing the envelope proposition. And, frankly, what they've been working on the last month is astounding to me in terms of the range of options that they've been pursuing. It doesn't make... that's not to make excuses for the bad environmental impact that is clearly occurring here. But given once the blowout occurred, the focus on doing everything possible to try to address it as quickly as possible has been going on. That said, the calculations today would suggest it's at least as big in terms of spill as the Valdez, and in many respects, because it's bubbling up from the ocean floor, probably worse in its overall effects.
This may be a very simplistic question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The top kill, I mean, my first thought was, why didn't we do this a month ago? Others have said it took a while to kind of repair the damage so they could get to this state. Who's right?
Well, I think the latter is a very correct statement. I think they needed to do a real assessment of what the damage was. They obviously tried to do other things that would mitigate the problem while they were making that assessment and while they were getting ready for the top kill. I don't think it was a viable option to get it done, in the first week or more. And there were these other options that they were hoping would work.
Tom, can you explain? I mean, I have to imagine there's so much pressure coming up there that it's a dangerous thing to do, and that it's going to be tough to permanently cap it. How do they relieve the pressure? How are they going to really put the finishing touches on this?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, if this works, and the signs are encouraging, but it's not there yet. But if this works in terms of getting enough drilling mud in that well to keep the oil from coming up, to counter the pressure of the oil, then they put a cement plug in there. And then I think they, I'm not certain of this, but I wouldn't be surprised by what they still drill a relief well as a way to, permanently cut off any risk of, this blowing out again or whatever.
All right, hey, Tom,
I suspect that's what's going to happen.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tom Petrie there, Vice Chairman at Bank of America.